Hello there and welcome. This is Joe from Signagelive, and today we're going to be talking about the latest additions to the ever-growing family of BrightSign digital signage players. For those unfamiliar, BrightSign devices are incredibly versatile digital signage players, and now with the addition of the 5 Series fleet, these devices just got even bigger and better. Today I have a handful of these devices here with me, and we're going to go through each one step by step and determine where we might use them, the benefits of each, and the suitability of them for your digital signage projects. BrightSign devices are easy to spot with their bold purple chassis, and we come across these devices a lot here at Signagelive, and customers are typically always saying the same thing and praising the robustness and the versatility of these devices. Before we jump into the differences between each of these devices, I'm going to talk through what they have in common. So as I said before, the bold purple chassis, this is a staple in BrightSign's design, so if you ever see these purple boxes and you know you are dealing with a BrightSign, you'll notice that bar the two big guys up here, that a lot of these feature a really slim and sleek design. The benefit of this, of course, being that you can hide these easily behind your screens when you have them in situ. A HDMI output is, of course, present across all of these screens, and that's how we're going to be getting our content to our screens, minus this guy here, which I'll come to later. An Ethernet port for internet connectivity and power in some instances where the devices support power over Ethernet. They also have Wi-Fi antenna ports, should you wish to purchase the optional Wi-Fi module and use these devices wirelessly. A micro SD card port, which is obviously where our content will be stored once it's downloaded. Having this on an SD card provides lots of huge benefits, including if your player were to go offline. You can, of course, keep that content running if it supports offline playback. It's worth noting that depending on your point of purchase, the micro SD cards in these don't actually come pre-installed, so you will need to purchase a micro SD to go with these. One final thing that all of these players have in common is the ability to be configured using our bdeploy module. Bdeploy allows you to upload a CSV template to your Signagelive network and then deploy a number of players en masse. In that CSV template, you can determine a number of things, such as the license that will be used, the player ID. Then what will happen is when your players are on site and have an internet connection, the players will automatically install Signagelive. Now, although I only have one of each here today, each of these BrightSign models typically comes in multiple versions. They come with a standard version and an expanded version. The main difference between these being the amounts of inputs and outputs that they have. So in some cases, you'll get the option of USB, RS-232, and additional HDMI outputs in some cases as well. I'll go over these in more detail as we walk through each of these devices. Okay, so starting at the bottom here, we have the LS5, which is the entry-level player in the BrightSign Series 5 family. An affordable and powerful solution that comes in 2 variants, the LS425, which starts at around £300, and the LS445, which starts at around £390. Costs, of course, will vary depending on your point of purchase. The primary difference between these 2 variants of LS5 is the video codecs that they support. The LS425, which actually isn't the one that I've got here, that supports H.264 video of up to 1080p at 60 frames per second, whilst the LS445 supports 4K at 60 FPS. These devices are perfect for straightforward digital signage setups, catering to the likes of displaying full-screen video or showcasing basic web-based content. Both of the models of the LS5 players can decode 1 video at a time, meaning that they are single video output devices. Both models are capable of running basic HTML5 content such as web pages or apps from our marketplace. Again, bear in mind that these are entry-level models from this family, so if you are looking to use HTML5 content with more motion and animation, then you're likely going to benefit from going up to one of the more powerful models. As well as the 3.5 audio jack output that we have here, these devices also have USB-C, which can be used for GPIO and serial devices to trigger content from external solutions. This can also be used for single touchscreen experiences as well, with simple interactive content. It has a HDMI 2.0 output port, which supports a wide range of mainstream file formats, such as JPEG, PNG, MP4, and for the 4K model, MKV as well. By default, these guys come with a standard Ethernet port for wired connectivity, but if you do want to go wireless, you do have that option as well. With the little Wi-Fi antenna ports here, you can then purchase the optional Wi-Fi or Bluetooth module to connect to those ports. It's worth highlighting at this stage that all of the devices that we are discussing today are external media players, meaning that as long as they have a HDMI output on them, that you can use them with any screen that supports the resolution that you're outputting to. This is particularly handy, say you ever had to replace a unit. You can swap the device out without having to replace the entire screen. Moving up to the HD variants of these 5 Series devices, These guys are fit for both indoor and outdoor environments thanks to their plated aluminium enclosures. This means that they can handle extreme conditions. Again, these come in two variants with different inputs and outputs. The HD225, which comes with a 3.5 audio jack, an IR port, GPIO and a HDMI out, and the HD1025, which I have here, which has all of the above, plus a USB-A port and an RS232 port, which allows you to make use of real-time events and serial control. These retail at around £455 for the HD225 and £550 for the HD1025, which I have here. Again, prices will vary depending on the point of purchase. The HD5 range brings you more freedom and flexibility and allows you to introduce more interactive experiences that span outside of just the screens, thanks to the expanded and flexible I/O set. Touchscreens, proximity sensors, physical buttons for emergency messaging, you name it. Both variants are capable of running 4K at 60 FPS video, and they can rotate full HD video as well. As they support 4K, this also means that they can output 4K image content as well. Unlike the LS5 models, however, these units can decode dual HD video, meaning they can run two concurrent HD videos simultaneously on your screens. There's an improvement in the HTML5 content performance as well, so you can begin to introduce 2D motion graphics into your web content. And on the HD1025, which is this guy here, you can also use interactive web pages as well. This is great if you have 2D motion content and a web page that you want to interact with using a touchscreen. Moving up to the XD5 now, and of course there's that little Wi-Fi module I was telling you about earlier. This is a device that was built with HTML5 content heavily in mind. This device can handle more intensive 2D motion graphics, and it can render web pages in full HD with speedy load times, smooth animations, and responsive interactions. These guys come in two variants. Once again, you have the XD235, which retails at around $612, and you have this guy here, which is the XD1035, starting around £708. Both devices offer power over Ethernet, so that gives you one less cable to worry about when you're managing these devices on site. Both have the optional addition of self-encrypted SSD storage of up to 256 gigabytes, which of course will allow you to support higher capacity files as well. Like the HD5 over here, both variants of the XD5 can rotate full HD video, and they also support 4K video. They also support the dual HD video decoding, so once again, if you want to display two HD videos at the same time, these guys can handle that as well. If you go up to the expanded XD1035 model, which I have here, you'll also have the USB-A port as well, which adds the ability to connect a touch screen that you can utilize alongside your more demanding web page content. Of course, you also have a USB-C as well, and a 3.5 RS232 serial port. Overall, a very powerful set of devices. Definitely one to consider if more intensive and interactive web page content or HTML animation is what you're looking to display. Next up, we have the XT5 models, which typically won't look like this. You'll usually find them sporting the purple BrightSign colors that we know and love. These guys up the ante even more, and these are the perfect companions for events with more graphic-heavy advertising. And that's all thanks to their ability to render lightning-fast and highly responsive 3D motion graphics. There are actually 3 models in the XT range, so I'm going to cover these each independently. Before I do though, I'll just go over what they have in common as well. They all support 8K at 60 FPS single video output, and in the instances where you want to display multiple videos at once, you can do dual 4K at 60 FPS. They can also rotate 4K and full HD video. They all feature power over Ethernet and GPIO ports, so you can trigger content with an external device. You get your 3.5 IR port for sending and receiving IR commands. And as I mentioned before, these guys have PC-class HTML power, so they can handle demanding 3D motion graphics when it comes to your web and app-based content. So you can start to introduce a more immersive and interactive web content experience with these guys too. And on top of all of that, they still have that really thin and nice rugged design. They also have the plated aluminium outer casing so that they can handle extreme conditions. So again, if you wanted to use these devices outside, they are fit for that too. The standard model from this range is the XT245, which starts out around $810 depending on your point of purchase, and includes everything that I've just mentioned. If you jump up to the expanded model, which is the XT1145, you're looking at around the $848 mark at retail price. And with that first expanded model, you of course get all of the expanded inputs and outputs, much like the previous ones. You'll get your USB-A or USB-C, so you can start using external peripherals such as touchscreens. You'll get an RS232 serial port, And this is where things get really interesting. You also get a single HDMI input, meaning that you can feed your live TV from a top box, or really anything that has a HDMI output, you can feed it straight into the HDMI input of your BrightSign. Our third and final one is what's called the multiplex variant of the XT5, and that's the XT2145 that I'm holding here. This retails at around $868, and this guy includes everything that the expanded model has, but it also has an additional HDMI 2.0 output, meaning that you can output to an additional screen at 4K 60 FPS. Overall, these guys are an incredible set of players, which of course would be fantastic for creating more interactive experiences thanks to the 3D motion graphics rendering. And of course, if you get this model here, you can start to build out small video walls thanks to the additional HDMI output. Most of the models that we've already spoken about today bear resemblance to previous BrightSign players in the 4 Series and even the 3 Series family. But the 5 Series introduced the XC5 into the mix, and that's this guy here. This guy is a powerhouse of a media player that is physically the largest of the pack, as you can see here, other than this guy. Again, I'm coming on to him. 2 models of the XC reside in this family. You have the XC2055, which retails at around $1199, and you have the XC4055, which I have here. This starts at around $1679. Both models of the XC devices feature everything in the expanded models that we've discussed today, and whilst the XC2055 has 2 HDMI outputs, the XC4055, which I have here, has 4 HDMI outputs, which can each output 4K at 60 FPS. Both models have incredible PC-class HTML5 performance 3D graphics, WebGL and JavaScript, and on top of this, they have ultra-fast load times. These devices were built with video walls in mind, so if you're looking to span your content across multiple displays from a single device, run industry-standard 8K resolution, or intensive HTML5 content, then these are the players for you. And finally, we come to the BrightSign HS5, and I know that you've been eagerly awaiting this one since I've been teasing him all video. This one is an all-in-one inbuilt BrightSign solution. So the way this works is the BrightSign unit is actually on the back here, and you have a built-in screen as well. This particular one that I have here is embedded into a Bluefin device, but there are many manufacturers out there that do different variants of this. But the actual HS part of this is the BrightSign that is fixed onto the back here. This is the HS125, which I have here. There is also the HS145, which supports 4K video, whereas this guy just does full HD. Of course, one of the huge benefits of these is that everything is built into the back of the screen, meaning that cable management is a lot more tidy. This streamlines installation and makes it just more compact and a bit more tidy. These guys include all of the ports that we've come to find in the expanded models of all of our previous BrightSigns here. They have mainstream HTML performance, so they can support standard HTML widgets and graphic animations. This makes them the perfect companion to use in conjunction with our Signagelive room booking widgets as well. And of course, if you manage to acquire one that does a touch screen display as well, then that just adds an extra layer of interactivity to your content too. Now, before we wrap up, there's a few things to consider here. Of course, IPTV, if you want to display that on these players, all of them will handle that just fine, but it's worth noting that if you're taking a HDMI output from a top box, for example, you will need to go for one of the XT models because they are the only model that have HDMI inputs. And again, that means the XT1145 or the XT2145 that are going to be your best options in this case. Micro SD cards, as I mentioned earlier in this video, none of these players typically come with the SD card, so just bear that in mind when you purchase these. You will need to get an SD card that is actually supported with these. Another thing to consider is whether you need a wireless connection. By default, none of these devices come with the little Wi-Fi module that I mentioned earlier. So if you want to connect these wirelessly, you will need to purchase one of these as well. If you do decide to purchase one of these Wi-Fi modules, you will of course need to install them yourself. That's easily enough done. You just grab them and screw them into the Wi-Fi module port on the player, like so. And then you have a Wi-Fi module. So just to confirm that once again, Wi-Fi is not pre-installed on these players. You will need to purchase the Wi-Fi module if you want to use these wirelessly. Another thing to consider is BSN Cloud. BSN Cloud is BrightSign's own device management portal that provides varying levels of real-time control and remote management of your BrightSign devices. One of the benefits of that platform is that it allows you to deploy partner CMS platforms to your BrightSign devices, all from BSN Cloud. Signagelive is of course amongst that list as well. That being said, if you do want to use BSN Cloud, you can deploy Signagelive through there to your 3 and 4 Series players as well. And that is pretty much everything you need to know about these Series 5 BrightSign players. They're incredibly versatile players, and there is an entire fleet with so many different options. This provides scalability no matter what the size of your digital signage project is. But as always, if you have any further questions or wish to speak to us further on any of this, please get in touch and we'd be more than happy to help. And with that, I'll see you on the next one.